we all agreed that green software is just modern good software practices. It is things like distributed systems and resilience and security and performance. It isn't different to that.
Hello, and welcome to Environment Variables, brought to you by the Green Software Foundation. In each episode, we discuss the latest news and events surrounding green software. On our show, you can expect candid conversations with top experts in their field who have a passion for how to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of software. I'm your host, Chris Adams.
So hello and welcome to The Week in Green Software, the show where we unpack the biggest stories shaping sustainable software and talk about what they actually mean for developers and operators and decision makers. So I'm your host today, Anne Currie, co-author of O'Reilly's Building Green Software and host of the new tech podcast, Asynchronous and Unreliable. And today I'm joined by one of my co-authors, Sara Bergman, and we're going to zoom in on a few themes that are showing up everywhere right now, including token ops, as AI usage ramps up. Now, having said that, Sara works for Microsoft, and she's not allowed to talk about AI. So we might have to, in some parts of this podcast, we can't really these days not talk about AI, but Sara might just have to sit and look impassive while we talk about it a little bit at moments. But you can obviously jump in with the bits that you're allowed to talk about. So, Sara, obviously, I see you quite often because you are a regular guest on my podcast, Asynchronous and Unreliable, for anybody that's forgotten about it. But we haven't done this for a while. We haven't done an environment variables for a couple of months. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, and we can talk about after that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's really nice to be back. It's not always nice to see you, but we do that more regularly now, which is really fun. But yeah, for those of you who don't know who I am Sara Bergman, Sara Bergman, however you want to pronounce that, it's up to you. And I am a software engineer at Microsoft. I work on CPU efficiency and utilization on cloud scale at Microsoft, but the other half of my team work on GPU efficiency and utilization. So a lot of it is just me being very scared of accidentally saying something I am not at liberty to say, because they do really cool stuff and I really wish I could talk about it. But I also really like my job and I would like to keep it. So there you go. I am one third of the co-authors of Building Green Software, one of the Saras. We have luckily one Sara, one Sara. We spell our names differently. I feel like that has made our life easier than most people can realize. But yeah, excited to be here and talk about some news. What's going on?
Well, absolutely, yeah. It will be delightful. It's always really nice to catch up. So it's an interesting one. I wasn't going to talk about this, but you might have to do your usual. And you may say that, Anne, I cannot possibly comment. But it's quite interesting. And I think that there is something that's worth discussing here, which is, or me commenting on and you not saying anything, which is, so how many people aren't allowed to talk about AI or aren't allowed to be recorded at all? So Sara, our co-author, who used to be on Environment Variables fairly regularly as well, isn't allowed to talk about AI either by her employer. And she's not even allowed to be recorded anymore. She can't even not talk about AI and be recorded. I think that the only reason why I can talk quite freely about AI is because I don't have a fancy employer. I'm self-employed,
Yeah.
so, you know.
I think what Microsoft does is it like sort of in the defense, but they do have a course or like something you can take and then you can talk more about it. I just haven't, because well, people don't see on this camera, but I'm very, very pregnant, so I won't be around. So I haven't taken the course / the thing you need to do because it is important. I think most companies do have some kind of policy for public speaking, because you do represent the brand. Even though I could come on here and say I am a private person as much as I want, I do still work for Microsoft, and for good or for bad, I do represent the brand, and that should be a fair representation. So yeah, I'll come back after maternity leave and I'll take the course and I can talk more. But that's at least how I understood the situation. It might change after the months I plan to be gone on maternity leave, but we'll see.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. I mean, it's not like people are being evil. It's just that it's quite a controversial subject, and
Yeah.
it's dangerous. And you particularly, because you know an awful lot of what Microsoft is doing that's quite potentially commercially sensitive. You can't. In some ways, you're a victim of our own success, aren't you? That you're more involved in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks to all the work I did earlier in my, well, I guess I'm still early in my career, but very early in my career, around my passions. I now work with my passion, which is great. But yeah, it comes with some red tape.
But yes, so there are lots of things for us to talk about today. The first thing we're going to talk about is my podcast. The podcast that we do quite regularly together, and it's been very good to record a whole load of
It's not,
episodes.
you make me sound like a co-host. I'm not. I'm just a happy occasional guest. You are the driver, the host, the main event.
Yeah, that's true. But I consider you to be a key regular guest on it, and it's really nice. You kind of exemplify why I'm doing it, which is to talk to a whole load of nice people who are doing fun things and find out what's going on and what's happening. And so the reason why we chose the name asynchronous or why I chose the name asynchronous and unreliable is because it's kind of a podcast about modern techniques like distributed systems, and so it's you might say it's not really about sustainability, but when me and Sara decided to write Building Green Software, we came to we all agreed that green software is just modern good software practices. It is things like distributed systems and resilience and security and performance. It isn't different to that. It is just another facet of the importance of good modern software practices.
Yes, exactly. I also think what I liked about being on your podcast is we can chat quite a bit about, like, banter a bit. We can. I think we can do that here, but we try to be a bit more, I don't know, put our professional hats on. But if you do want to hear how we actually met the first time, that is on the first podcast episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and then little did we know that we would go on to write Building Green Software. We had no idea. Although we met through the Green Software Foundation.
We did, yes. Yes.
And
Sara as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yes, so these kind of voluntary things, they are a good way of meeting people, like-minded people. It's
and it's especially good for people like me who live in places where, well, I mean, I live in Stockholm and the tech scene is quite big here, but from a global perspective, there are more like-minded people elsewhere than there is only in Stockholm. You live in London or close to London, so you have more of a tech scene.
Yeah, that's
by.
true.
Yeah,
London's pretty good. It has a really strong green tech scene as well. I mean, I in the early days of this, I met loads of people in London who were interested in green tech and building green software and sustainability. It's good. Yeah,
really cool.
And we got plenty of coverage. We got plenty of coverage at it on sustainability at local conferences in London as well, and they were popular tracks. People went along to those talks and they really enjoyed them. But interestingly, the same tracks did not play so well in some other countries. So interestingly, America, the sustainability tracks did not do anywhere near as well in America.
Interesting.
I
wonder how much that comes down to, because there is some regulatory pressure in the European Union. I mean, not that the UK is a part of that anymore, but could be influenced, or the people could move across borders. I wonder how much that could have an effect.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. It's interesting. I think that in Europe we've been very much better at grokking the fact that it is just good. It's not some kind of woke stance. It is just like, writing more efficient, more performance, more secure, less wasteful software is just a good thing. It's not a political stance.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, renewables are coming on rapidly. You're gonna want to be aware of that fact.
Yeah, and building green software is just about building software that will be aligned with the new forms of energy when they arrive, as they arrive, and they're already arriving. Yeah, that's it's quite an interesting one, which kind of takes us on to the first topic, which you may not be allowed to comment on, but it's a very hot topic. So it's good that our editor Chris said that we should talk about it, even if you can't say anything. So this first topic we're going to be talking about is something that actually it's coming up quite a lot now, and I didn't hear anything about it more than a month ago, and suddenly I'm hearing about it from all kind of angles and different sides on the cost of tokens, and the two sides I'm hearing about it from, which somewhat a little bit might be a European angle versus an American angle. I would say that the two angles I hear on this are token ops, which is about how you bring down how many tokens you're using so that your systems are more cost effective or less wasteful and more sustainable. And on the other side, I'm hearing about, and I'm only hearing about this from American sources, token maxing, which is all about measuring how much of a super AI stud you are by how many tokens you can possibly use in the competition for using as many tokens as possible to do the same job. So I would say it's not necessarily good and evil. It has its both. They both have their place. But we can talk a little. I think we can talk about the rest of the podcast about token ops versus token maxing. But I don't know if you're allowed to.
I haven't heard of token maxing. I feel everything is something maxing now. I feel very old all of a sudden. I'm not up to date with all the terms. It's like fiber maxing. I don't know what's going on. But I do. There was an article, Computer Weekly, will be in the show notes. It was like how to improve AI efficiency beyond cost optimizations, which was about this. And I want to quote a few, because the article had a few like concrete suggestions that I would like to count. And they said you should educate the users and consumers about token usage. You should also be very disciplined about your use case prioritization. What do you use AI for? And consider leveraging a combination of different AI techniques, not just LLMs, which people now kind of tend to like they say AI and they mean large language models. They're more AI techniques. And partnering with cloud providers that demonstrate like verifiable commitments to sustainability, actively managing and optimizing your AI workloads, resource allocation, operational processing, scheduling, large-scale, energy-intensive processes during off-peak hours, adopting green apps. And I'm like, well, this sounds very familiar. Did you read our book? Because a lot of productizing AI workloads in the most efficient, from like a token perspective and a sustainability way, is really the same as any software workloads. A lot of it is identical. There are some things that are different. There are like AI-specific things, especially for inferencing now, that inferencing is so much more expensive than training. That wasn't the case just 6 years ago, but today it is. Or at least that's what the data seems to be pointing to. And that's like things like smaller models, or like choose the right model for what you're trying to do. If you're trying to, summarize a conversation, you might not need the biggest model, but if you're trying to like research something, you might need choose the right model for your scenario. Inference optimized hardware, and then caching and access points closer to the consumer. Then I remember you wrote something on Instagram about CDNs, right?
Yeah.
Caching on AI. Was this the same?
Yes, it was. So it wasn't from this article. It was from a CDN that I was talking to about. It looks like lots of the CDNs that really know what's going on and are reasonably future looking are doing something called semantic caching for AI, which is, to be honest, it's not a total surprise. I think we mentioned that it was obviously going to come at some point in the book, because the reality is it was fairly predictable that lots of people were just going to ask the same questions over and over and over again. So in the same way that CDNs work because people request the same digital assets over and over again, and actually they make the internet much more stable and much more sustainable and much less expensive, because they cache that much requested assets at the edge of the internet closer to users. They usually have like places that they're caching it all over the internet. And it's like there's no point in making a a trip halfway across the world to pick up Game of Thrones when everybody is locally is just watching Game of Thrones. It's like when I first started writing about this, it was all about Game of Thrones. It's things have moved on since then. But nonetheless, big digital assets, you don't want to have to, you cache them locally so that you don't have to constantly pass them around for no purpose. But the same is true of AI queries, that lots of people ask the same thing over and over again. Apparently the canonical example of this is, what's the best coffee shop in San Francisco?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't need to get you don't need to get ChatGPT to recalculate that every millisecond someone asks that same question.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really cool. And then something else I've been thinking about, like very close to my work, because right now I'm building like an agent, and it's very tempting. So once you start, you have like an AI workflow. It's very tempting to like use AI for everything, but it's very important to not use AI for things that are deterministic. Like if you can script it in whatever, like if you can write code for it, by all means, let AI help you write the code. If you want to write it yourself, that's up to you. But then like save the script and let your agent or skill or whatever system you have read, like just invoke that script, because it will save you tokens. So you won't do very well in the token maxing category, I guess, but in the token ops category, you will excel. And also, if it is deterministic, then scripting it will give you coherence over time, even if model changes, because models will change. There will always be new models, better models, faster, cheaper. So you don't want to like attach your scenario too closely to one specific model, I would say, at least.
Yeah, you get no consistency. I mean, the whole point of AI, well, not the whole point of, but a key factor in AI is randomness. So you can't, that's what it does.
Yeah, it's good at that. So when you need it, use it. But for some things you really don't, you can script it. So please do.
So it's in many ways kind of analogous to caching. Go, well, look, I've got the answer. I'll stick with that one. I don't need to have a different answer every time where I have no idea what the answer might be.
Exactly.
Yes. The worst case scenario is you're just paying a huge amount more money than you need to, and you're slowing down the response of your system. But another potential thing is you just get an answer that wasn't really the answer that you wanted or expected.
Yeah, or it might not be consistent over time when it's something you really want to be consistent over time. And then same with if you're building like a product workflow, like someone else is going to use AI, like I don't know what's a typical AI chatbot scenario, I guess. I feel is the most common example. But then there are probably tools that your agent is going to have that can be scripts that don't have to be like super AI.
Yeah, you don't have to use AI for absolutely everything. It's not there's anything wrong with it. It's so on the token ops versus token maxing thing. As I say, it's like fiber maxing. Is it a good thing? Is it not a good thing? It probably isn't a good thing, and except sometimes this might be okay. Sometimes it gets really crazy. Token maxing has different downsides to fiber maxing, but they both have quite bleak downsides potentially. But they kind of, both token ops and token maxing do have a kind of a place in something I hear talked about quite a lot at the moment as well when I'm going out and talking to folk. They're saying, well, at what stage are we? At what stage are we still in growth mode, and at what stage are we in kind of cost cutting and efficiency mode? Because when people are looking for product market fits, maybe token maxing is actually not a crazy thing, because it demonstrates that you're being quite experimental and you're being out there and that kind of stuff. And the good thing about before you have product market fit is you've got no scale, so it is just you, your team, and your mum using your software. So it doesn't really matter if you're quite inefficient. But once you actually have product market fit and you're trying to scale, the key thing to remember is that actually the tools that you used because they were easy and quick and you could get something out there might be other tools. They quite possibly are often other tools that might be 50 times or 100 or even, thousands of times more efficient and cheaper to run that would do exactly the same job. But and at that point, it's worth looking to see if you can find those tools.
Yeah, I think this is also where like green ops really comes into the picture, and the importance of monitoring. And our other Sarah, she has a great talk. Well, it might not be available online, but if you ever catch her in her conference doing her monitoring talk, you should definitely go watch it, because I think everything we measure, we are more incentivized to do something with. If we kind of never look at it, it's hard. Like, it's not impossible, of course, but it can be trickier to get traction to change a number if you never look at what the number is.
Yes, yeah, indeed. Which is why kind of the situation changes. So a number that might be the number that you want to minimize or maximize at one point suddenly changes. So the reverse is true. Now you want to minimize that number rather than maximize it. It's a bit like that kind of crossing the chasm thing of, you find market fits. Maybe you were token maxing like crazy or whatever the cool American kids call it. Now you want to be token opsing. You don't want to be token maxing. Things have changed. But yeah. I don't think we'll be token maxing, will we really? So token. The good news that I've heard is I know that O'Reilly are looking into token ops as a new book that they're maxing out, because they are. So token ops, which is all about trying to measure how many tokens you're using and keep the number minimized or organized or at the target that you were setting. Is becoming a thing. I guess O'Reilly, I love O'Reilly, but they're not usually first to the party. They're usually at a point where, it's sufficiently established that someone can write a whole book.
Yeah, and that makes sense considering their business, I think. But I think also now I may be stepping already into the next paper a little bit, but I think it's an interesting part of that is that GPUs do work differently than CPUs. So it's also linked in the show notes. But it's called like cutting inference energy by stopping unnecessary output. And we can dive more into it. But what I really think make this paper worth a read for everyone is they kind of have a detailed explanation of like how a request moves through the GPU. And I didn't know, like I didn't learn this in school. I'm not sure, maybe you did, but I didn't. So this was not in this paper. I've been aware of this for a while now, but other people might not be. And I think that can also help understanding more how to really productize your AI workloads if you fundamentally understand the hardware you're running on. Because for CPUs, we have most of us have a mental model of how they work, and we sort of subconsciously write software to work for that. And we think about corner cases, and we think about utilization rates and all that for CPUs, because that's our domain. But GPUs are a bit different. And it's worthwhile learning about it. So if O'Reilly comes out with a book about token ops, then I hope GPU design is a central chapter of it. So if the future author is listening, please consider this my wish.
I'll have a word with him. So that's it. That is interesting. Obviously, I didn't learn about GPUs when I was at school. It was nice for you to even suggest the idea. Obviously, GPUs had not been invented when I was at university, even, or for most of my career. But and of course,
you like to learn.
Yeah, it is.
Or go to school for that matter.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. It's. Yeah, it is an interesting one. It's something we talked about actually on our last podcast, is that what should you be learning now? And how should you be learning it? With AI is completely upending everything. It's kind of like making me learn different things. In some ways, it's making me learn new things that I wouldn't have bothered learning before, because I was thinking, well, the learning curve, like editing, like a bit of editing a podcast, and it's like things that have become like a tiny additional bit of learning to get something reasonably good, as opposed to an enormous chunk of learning that you would never do unless you were a professional. So, whilst at the same time, AI is totally disrupting what languages to learn, what techniques to learn. I think code efficiency. And that was what I didn't learn it at university, but I learned it when I started at work, learning all the techniques of code efficiency and how what things to try, ideas that you can start trialing with. That's completely changing with AI. It completely changes the way that you write code. So really hard to know what to learn there.
Yeah, and I was actually at a seminar just a few weeks ago in the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences, where they had I was a member of the student council many years ago when I was a student. And the current student council was arranging a seminar on, I think it was called Graduation 2026. Do you have the skills for 2035 or something like that? And it was people representing the industry and people representing the universities, and do the engineering education have to change, and what has to change? And there was a lot of good things being said. I can't possibly synthesize in a few minutes, but I think one of the thing that stuck with me is you have to learn how to learn. That's a key skill you need to have, because in our field, obviously AI is something, but if you're an engineer in the steel industry, there is going to be something else that comes along and that you're going to have to learn, and being able to understand what to learn, when to learn it, how to learn something is an essential skill, and I really like that.
Yeah, actually, that is an excellent comments. I back in the days when I was going to university a long time ago, it was the key thing was that you did kind of the big subjects that were not very detailed and specific. They were more kind of ideas like English or either physics or maths, and they were quite conceptual rather than the details. And I could see those still being valuable. They're always going to be valuable, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was had a family had sort of family dinner yesterday, and one member of my family is an electrician, and he was saying that, and I was saying, oh well, I assume it hasn't really affected you that much. He said, no, it's totally changed things. He said there's this new tool they use called Tradeoffs. He said you take a photo of an electrical circuit, and it runs the AI over it, and it says, well, actually, that's wrongly plugged, that's wrongly connected, that needs a different wire rating. There's an issue with that. He said it's completely changed how they work.
It's really cool. That must also be a lot safer.
Oh gosh, it must be.
You still have to double check, of course, but to get an initial idea.
Yeah, because he said that they'd done loads of they tried it, because they'd obviously been trialing it for ages and ages just to make sure that it said the things that were right, because they were the professionals. They could just double check everything, and they're saying it's very good. It really has accelerated what their kind of younger, less experienced folk can do. It's changing everything.
I wonder, I also had a conversation with my sister the other day, because she works at the university, and she was like, I'm attending another lecture on AI. I'm like, I wonder if this is how people felt when electricity first came along. Oh no, someone's talking about lamps again at dinner. When are we done talking about this electricity? Not that
make a switch, it comes on.
Exactly. And I feel like it's on everyone's top of mind right now across the industries.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? That AI is. I'm doing a talk for DevOps London in the UK. They're opening keynotes. One of their opening keynotes next month, and they wanted a talk about AI, can it be green? And what are the actionable steps that the people in the audience need to take? And I always consider that to be an incredibly good sign, because it's an ordinary conference. It's not a sustainability conference.
Yeah.
It's a sign that this is okay. People care about it. It's okay to talk about it. And it's okay to, you don't have to be a doomer on this. And in fact, there are loads of things that you can do. When you move from the token maxing stage, where you're probably just chatting to ChatGPT, or the proprietary models, which are really quite inefficient still, and you move over to the token ops parts, where you're looking for the more tuned models, maybe the open source models, where they're really doubling. I mean, DeepSeek is still 50 times more efficient for like tasks than the proprietary models.
Yeah.
There's lots of options.
Yeah. And that was also this paper again. They had a really cool example specifically on code generation, where they basically introduced, what did they call it? They had a really cool name for it. Now I forgot. Babbling something. Oh gosh, I really wish I remembered. It was really funny because it made the AI sound like a toddler, which I appreciate as a toddler mom. But they basically, I think they looked at each token generated, and if it was a line ending, they checked, did the code compile and did it pass some tests? And if it did, they just terminated the whole thing. And for some models, they could decrease. Now I really wish I could remember. What was it? The cost? Energy cost or token cost? I can't remember. Something went down 89%, which is quite a lot, like 44 to 89%, depending on the model. So it was quite efficient. I don't think, because code is such a niche scenario where you can actually test it, right? So that was very specific to that scenario. I'm not sure how you would do that if you were trying to write the book with AI. Like, what would your testing scenarios be? I don't know. But I thought that was really cool, because it just shows that people are experimenting and doing research, and it's interesting to learn.
But I mean, it is an interesting point that you make. One of the reasons why things are moving so fast about replacing software engineers with AI is because it's quite testable. We write test suites to make code testable. It is, so particularly if you start with test-driven development, then you can make sure that what your AI is producing aligns with your tests. And there aren't so many other areas that, it's an interesting one, because obviously you've got code is very testable. Ops, I feel, might not be quite so testable. It's more complicated. So I think ops folk have jobs for longer, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel the same with like architecture, like building bigger things, but I don't know. Time will tell.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we don't know whether, what's the right thing to be doing with AI, what's the wrong thing to be doing, what should remain a human task, what shouldn't, what is the right thing to ever allow a chatbot to do as a decision for it to make. But the one thing that we can all agree on is don't be wasteful about it. If you're going to do it, if you're going to do evil stuff, at least apply some token ops to your evil stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, put your sensible shoes on.
Indeed, yeah. And actually, I do like AI. I think AI, I mean, there's that story about making electrical work safer and easier and quicker to do. It's all good if it can.
Yeah, I think it's a tool. You can use tools for good, and you can use tools for bad.
Yeah.
Same with the hammer.
That is very true. Oddly enough, I make exactly that point in my new science fiction, my latest science fiction novel, which will come out this year. So,
oh, exciting!
Which is the finale of the Panopticon series. If anybody here is a Panopticon series fan, it will finish this year, because it's kind of it's about the future. It's about chatbots, which I started writing before LLMs. And now I realise I have to finish it because the world is catching up way too fast. And if I let it go too long, I'm just gonna be left behind. So
That's true. That's the danger of being a sci-fi writer. That's why George R. R. Martin's job is safer. He never has to finish Game of Thrones to tie back in, because like nothing happens in the medieval fantasy land. Time stands still.
indeed, yeah. No, until actual dragons appear, and then that's good.
Yeah, that's true. Then he will be in trouble. But he might have other troubles if if we come to that.
Yeah, but also George R. R. Martin is never going to finish.
I don't think he will.
He's
And
never
like,
gonna-
good for him. He spent a long time writing these books. He deserves to like meet the fans and enjoy whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, I know. It's just a bit sad though, because I would have quite like, because as a fan, you do invest quite a lot in these series.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I have all the books and they're matching. They're matching in my bookshelf. What if the next one comes in 10 years and it will not have a matching cover? It will look odd in the bookshelf.
Oh, I got rid of all my physical copies of the George R. R. Martin books. I it's just on my Kindle now, so you can do whatever you like. But I don't think he will. I think it'll be finished by if it is. I don't think it will ever be finished. But
Yeah. Maybe he will do what's his name? Wheel of Time author.
Robert Jordan. Yeah, Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah. Have someone else.
Yeah.
Sanderson might be available. He seems very efficient in finishing stuff.
And actually, you do a great job of finishing them. I have to say.
Well, I haven't read them yet, so I'm still on book 9.
Of Wheel of Time.
Yes.
Ah,
I've
read all of
them yet.
Yeah. No, I think you did a really good job of finishing the Wheel of Time. You've done very well to get to book 9. Because it goes through a very. This is so not a.
This is not what we're supposed to be talking about. Sorry, Chris, who edits this.
He might keep it in, because I bet there are a load of geeks listening who listen to Environment Variables podcast who have maybe read the whole of. I'm very impressed that you've nearly read the whole of Wheel of Time, because I hardly ever meet anybody who's actually gone all the way through. I've read it twice.
Yeah, no, I like it, and like I'm a finisher, but now I'm taking a break. Because again, we moved countries and I want the matching covers, and it's a little bit hard to find. Oh gosh, I'm revealing too much about myself. Okay, should we talk about the next topic?
We probably should. But I will say that with Wheel of Time, it goes through a kind of bit of a slog. You are in the. It sounds like you're in the slog period. But when you get to Brandon Sanderson, it really perks up.
I can imagine. I've read other Sanderson's books, and he's quite speedy, so I can imagine it changes pace.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, wait, so we've totally gone off topic now.
Yeah, no. So the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, they've sent out for what do they call it? Public review, I believe, 2 changes, and so the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, like the Scope 2, the electricity parts, they have had 2 ways you can report emissions. And we talked about this in our book. They have the location-based, which is very similar to what Green Software SEI does. And then they have the market-based one. And in our book, we did criticize the market-based emissions accounting. And not because it's so the difference is you can pay for one type of electricity and use another and only report what you pay for. Yeah. And we don't think it's bad to invest in green energy, obviously. And probably when this protocol was written, that was a very good idea to get money invested into that. However, Absolutely. It's very complicated for people like us who want to take actions based on a number and then see the number change. And also with renewables picking up so much, it might not be as relevant. So what they're proposing, which is now up for public review, is to basically have kind of a hourly matching for the market-based part. And it also needs to be you have to be able to possibly use it in your location. You don't have to actually use it, but it has to be possible. So you can't pay for wind in California and then use coal in Poland, for example. Yeah. What do you think? Is this a logical next step? Is it good? Is it not aggressive enough?
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. Oddly enough, it slightly reminds me of the conversation we had earlier about there's phases, aren't there? As you said, that you've got a phase in which one thing is good, and then things change, and a different thing is good. So early in the renewable movement, the offsetting, where you just paid for RECs or whatever, and you just said, well, I'm at least tracking how much my emissions are, and then I'll pay to offset those. They were really, really key to getting investment into renewables. They were unbelievably important. So we shouldn't slag them off, because they got to where we are. And now better practices is actually to start doing time shifting and trying to time match your loads. But it does suddenly become a lot more complicated. And most companies haven't even done the measurement to do the RECs yet. So it's an interesting one. At what point it's absolutely the right direction of travel. And for some people, they need a kick up the rear to actually move on to the next stage, where they start shifting their time, their loads, so that they match up with renewables. But then you've also got people who are falling behind. What we should do is match this up to the maturity matrix that we had.
That's exactly my comment, what I've written in my notes as well. Because the next best thing isn't necessarily the gold standard best thing. It's just the next best thing, the next possible thing that doesn't block you from the optimal best thing.
Oh, so actually, I'm going to spring something on you now that you don't know anything about, which is that the maturity matrix. So you may, I think because we've talked about it before, the maturity matrix at the Green Software Foundation has gone into a standards thing, which means that nobody can change it anymore. Nobody's making any change. I'm not even allowed to. I'm not allowed to get involved in any way. So it's kind of sitting there with nothing going on with it. So me and a chap who's also been a host on, not a guest on Environment Variables, Charles Humble, are forking it so that we have an open version that actually people can get involved with, and then we can actually do all these things like putting the GHG stuff into it, and then we'll probably at some point donate it back to the GSF again. But in the meantime, it's just frozen in place, and actually there's quite a lot of stuff needs to happen on it. So we're moving it out into the world outside the GSF too, so we can add some stuff to it.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to reading it. I think it's a really good. I use it all the time in conferences to explain how to transition greenly as a company, because I think it's people think it's like a step 1, step 2 kind of thing, but it's like it's a matrix. It's not linear thing. So I really like that. And I think it is for the greenhouse gas protocol. I think this is a good step forward. I was surprised with the hourly matching, positively, because like you said, that's quite forward thinking in a world where we know renewables have this hockey stick graph.
Yeah, but it's absolutely the right thing to do. So it's an interesting one, because yes, as you say, it's way beyond what most people can do, but it is where we need people to be starting to think about. Yes. So you think it's a good thing. I think it sounds like we're in complete agreement. It's a good thing, but but it means people need to look even harder at the maturity matrix and kind of have to get there step by step.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean the previous thing was bad. It was just for its time, and things move on.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I would never. I think that everybody who becomes carbon neutral by offsetting with RECs, well, it's much better than not doing that. It shows that you're measuring, and as you said earlier, what you measure, you tend to make changes for. If you don't measure it, you don't think about it, do you?
Exactly.
Right. Well, so we've done 45 minutes now, so that's quite a long time for us to be chatting. But as usual, I have massively enjoyed it. So I hope the listeners have enjoyed our chat, even if we did segue off into the world of Wheel of Time and George R. R. Martin. And I can't remember how we got there now. But we're back into green software again. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please tune into future episodes of Environment Variables podcast, where I'm hopefully we're all Sara is all under the gun on the arrival of her baby number 2. So we don't know at what point you're going to disappear off the scene. In the meantime, if you want to catch more of Sara and I and other people talking about green software in the context of all modern software, so distributed systems, code efficiency, operational efficiency, then do tune in to Asynchronous and Unreliable. There's loads of links to it on my LinkedIn, so you can find it there. But thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Sara, for coming on Environment Variables again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
So thank you very much, and I hope you tune in again soon to Environment Variables podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. Just a reminder to follow Environment Variables on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please do leave a rating and review if you like what we're doing. It helps other people discover the show, and of course, we'd love to have more listeners. To find out more about the Green Software Foundation, please visit greensoftware.foundation. That's greensoftware.foundation in any browser. Thanks again, and see you in the next episode.